She always thought love had to be like this like burning wildfire when it can just be like this kind of like calm river. And I think that is like, yeah, that's helped me a lot to be able to just like tune into like the deepest parts of me and just like feel that love rather than have this almost like mistake, like obsessive craving for love, you know? And like, if I don't have that like obsessive craving, like out of control, like gross feelings or something, you know, but that there's just that like deeper level of connection that brings that like calm, lasting peace and connection.
I'm just realizing now you're wearing the same jacket that you wore on our first date.
I am, our first date jacket. I thought this was a real dress up quarter zip thing. Sam thought I was stoned.
I started to get a little afraid that you actually were a cult guy and that you belonged to a cult, or that you had a weird dream to like start a cult.
Right. I know. I like to talk about it a lot, and you like to hear me tone it back a little bit when I get a little too culty. You're like, ha ha ha. But actually, like,
ha ha, but we're joking, right?
Yeah. Ha ha ha. You have your life together though, right? Because I will not be joining a cult.
If we as a couple were a color, what would it be? But don't tell me yet. No! You were supposed to say it on 3, David. That's going to count.
You said it was a fire round.
Welcome to Side Note, the podcast, where we explore the intersection of business and intuition. I'm your host, Samantha Fackler, a Fortune 100 marketing advisor turned leadership coach who has worked with over 100 companies across 13 years and counting. And yes, I also keep crystals on my desk. I love astrology. And I'm a trained Reiki master. So I see the connections that other people miss. Join me for conversations that'll change how you think about business, life, and everything in between. Don't hide yourself. Okay, today is an extra special episode because we have someone on who has seen me build this from the ground up, as well as see me take my first steps into entrepreneurship. David, my husband, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
David, you are my husband, my roommate, my dog father, and so there's a lot that we're going to cover in today's episode. It is a special Valentine's Day edition. So we're going to peel back the curtain a bit and not just talk about work and how we're both entrepreneurs right now, as well as how we transitioned into those and other transitions, but we're also going to be talking about our love life and our relationship.
Ooh,
so
saucy. All right.
With that, let's dive in. What was your actual first impression of me? Don't hold back. I have mine of you.
Cool.
I thought you were high.
I know. You thought I was a little stoner. I know. I was trying to be super chill because I was nervous. So I was trying to calm down. I thought you were very like well put together. You know, you came in and you had like this nice coat on and like your hair was all done. And you had this very like, almost want to say like great posture. But I just remember like, okay, this is like a for real thing, you know. She's like a woman, you know. Yeah. And then you sat down and it was just, yeah, I feel like we were like laughing and joking very quickly. So then I feel like that's what kind of like hooked me, was like that ease of chatting and that yeah, you're like very well put together and fun, you know. The
best of both worlds.
The secret is a rare combo.
Well, you were immediately funny. Like at first I was like, oh my God, is this guy stoned? But then I sat down and I realized that you were just pretty relaxed as a human, and you immediately had these really smart jokes about sake. You had researched sake facts.
I know. I was so nervous. You had been to Japan, and then I had said, oh, let's go to this sushi place. And then I looked up the sushi ahead of time because I was like, what if I don't know what to order? She's probably a pro. She's been to Japan. And then the menu was like all in Japanese. So I like got super scared. So then I started researching what all the different things mean. So I had the sake facts. So for my nervous, frantic energy, I brought a sense of calm and fun.
Yeah. And I never would have picked that up. But now I know your tells. I know when you're actually anxious.
Right. Secret is I'm always anxious. Just kidding.
So when we first met, I feel like we connected over travel because I had been to Japan, but you had been to India and Thailand and all sorts of places. You've traveled since you were young as a kid. But I'm trying to remember the other things that we connected on early on.
Yeah, I remember us talking. I was like, oh, we're both tech bros because you were working at LinkedIn and I've been in like data science for 9 years or so. I was working at a sustainable energy utility consulting company. But yeah, I remember us. Yeah, we were both tech bros. You were really into crypto and I had gotten into crypto very early as well. So we had that thing.
You did.
And then Yeah, I definitely remember. I remember the travel. You had traveled a lot. You knew very little about sushi and sake.
I
So I
did.
didn't need to be worried that you had traveled to Japan because you did not learn anything about sushi or sake there.
I
I
learned
also
things
remember
about myself.
your eating allergies coming out slowly one at a time. That was one of the only red flags I would say of our first date.
Yeah.
Was that at first it was like, I can't have, like, yeah, we'll order whatever, you know, and then it's like, oh, well, I can't have like any of these special rolls that have dairy on. Those are the best rolls. I was like, that's okay. We'll get a shrimp tempura. And you're like, oh, see, I can't really do like deep fried. It kind of upsets my stomach. And then that was when I just flashed to my whole life. What if I can just, what am I just going to live a vegan life now, you know? Just be with
Because
this
I was
girl who
not
can't eat
vegan.
anything. And now
I
I
was
just
not
have to.
vegan. I was fresh off an elimination diet, just for our listeners. So I was eating super, super clean. So yes, all of those restrictions at the time
Right.
were.
And I've corrupted you since. You now eat a lot of meat
Oh my
and
gosh. I eat red
fried
meat now, which
foods
is
and everything.
crazy. I never
Yeah.
ate red meat before you.
I got you into steak tartare that you never thought you'd do steak tartare.
Yeah. All of a sudden, raw bison in my mouth.
Yeah.
Weird. What is a date gone wrong story that has taught us something about each other?
A date gone wrong.
I think of, well, I always thought picnics were really romantic. Like I remember when I lived in New York and I was single, or San Francisco when I was single, I would go to the park and read most Sundays, and I would always see these couples like reading together and snacking, like drinking wine. And I just fantasized over it. And I always was curious, like, if I would have that. And then when we started dating, I kept wanting to have a picnic, but we were in Colorado and there's like random storms all the time, even in the summer. So one of our early dates, we were going to do a picnic, but it started pouring. So instead, we went to a brewery and then we watched like a cult TV show and had an indoor picnic.
I remember that. That was a great time. And then the
It was
next like
fun.
2 times you tried to have a picnic, it rained. It was like 12 days of sun. And then like the day you wanted a picnic, it rained. And that happened like 3 times in a row. I feel like we've had one picnic, but it was probably like super cold.
Well, we had one at the beach later and it was cut short because we were late and the beach closed. So
And they were
our
going to lock
picnics,
our car in. Yeah.
our picnics have kind of failed. But I learned that initial date that you like cults and that you're into cult stuff.
I do. I enjoy cults as a fun thing, not like actually being into cults, you know, like not giving away my autonomy, but kind of just like the fun aspect of like, let's try and do something different for a few days.
Yeah.
I got to join a slight cult in India with my friend George for 3 days. That was a great time.
What was the
It was Osho, and it wasn't a cult. It was called a meditation resort. It was Osho who tried to form a Shangri-La in America and then was driven out because people don't like things that are different. And then he poisoned some people, or his assistant poisoned some people, and he had to flee back to India. But yeah, I had seen like Wild Wild Country, which was this show about his cult, and I was like, they look like they're having a great time. I feel like everyone's oppressing them. And then we were out in India, and my friend George just like got an Osho book from the like airport bookstore because we were like waiting for a flight, and he has a lot of great spiritual teachings, even though he ran kind of a sketchy thing in Oregon. And yeah, at the back of the book, it just said like, hey, we have this meditation resort in Pune in India, and like anyone's welcome. And George was like, should we go? And I was like, dude, you think that's like an actual invitation? It just says it in a book, you know? But we ended up going, and it was great. We were in this like giant obelisk pyramid. There were like we all had to wear robes, and then there was like gypsy music playing, and then they would like hit a gong, and everyone like had to pretend that they were dead. And we didn't know anything that was going on, and it felt like a real nice cult experience. And then 2 days into it, we were like, we should get out of here. And I was kind of starting to get hooked. I was like, there's some cool stuff here. You know, it's a little expensive. They take a lot of our money. But yeah, we had a lot of great meditations. They did different moving meditations everywhere. And then they started to upsell us. They're like, oh, you're just in the beginning program now. Like, what you really need to do is come into this secret 1 week long chakra program to open your heart chakra. And that's only $1,500. This is already super expensive for India. Like, we're spending $70 a night. That's insane. We're going to go. But it was a really good time, you know?
I remember when you first told me that story, and we were joking about cults a lot. Like one of our first banters back and forth over text, where I think we both were like lolling. I started to get a little afraid that you actually were a cult guy and that you belonged to a cult, or that you had a weird dream to like start a cult.
Right. I know. I like to talk about it a lot, and you like to hear me tone it back a little bit when I get a little too culty. You're like, ha ha ha. But actually, like, do you
Haha, but
have
we're
your
joking, right?
yeah, ha ha ha. You have your life together though, right? Because I will not be joining a cult. And I'm like, yeah, me?
Yeah.
No way.
I
Maybe
do.
though.
I think it points to, again, what I kind of learned about you through this too, is like you are generally interested in spirituality and religion and how people find belief in things, but you're not gullible. Like you're not one to, like you said, like you immediately spotted like, oh, okay, this is where it gets into like weird cult territory. Like I'm going to leave now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested in just like understanding our human lives better and like mostly through like experiential wisdom and values. So like when I see patterns in myself that I go through, like I only have to go through a pattern so many times before I'm like, okay, I seem stuck in this pattern. I'm the only person I'm going to be with for my whole life. Like it's just me in here. So like I kind of want to figure this out a little bit better so I don't have to keep dealing with this. So like where do you go for that? And I kind of like started, I feel like I started with like the self-help books. It was like, you know, the subtle art of not giving a fuck and then some of the other ones. And then as I read more and more, they would always like mention teachings from like the Buddha or from like Jesus or from ancient wisdoms and things. And then I was like, then I started to disbelieve the authors who wrote those books because I was like, I don't think you guys have it all together. Why am I reading your book if you don't even have that good of a life? I should read about these other guys 2000 years ago who everyone said did have a good life and did have it figured out. So I kept kind of like pulling back that thread and trying to find like, who are the actual people who have figured it out and kind of figured out like what it is to be human and all the jumbliness that goes into that. And then I try and figure out, all right, what did they do? Let me try some of those things. So that's why like I like, you know, the Osho cult thing, because I was like, all right, Osho had it like he was pretty dialed in. He went a little off at the end, you know, but let's see what he tries. So he tried a lot of like movement things and like high expression and getting you into your body and just like really holding back nothing, right? Which is a little different than like Buddha, who was more like go fully internal, almost express nothing because everything is within you and stuff. So it's all these different modalities to get to like just your own internal wisdom. But yeah, I only really value experiential acts and I don't care about people who don't have it all together. I just talk. They just talk like they do and sell you stuff. And I'm like, I don't believe you because you don't have it all together, you know?
Yeah, I think there's also an energy, there's like a cult energy with certain things. I think like you mentioned, it was a meditation resort with Osho, and there are meditation retreats that are not cults that are life-changing, and you and I have both gone to those. So it's being discerning about where you put your time and energy, and yeah, TLDR, don't fall into cults, and yeah.
Yeah, don't give up your power to another person. We're the keepers of our own flame.
Yes. Okay. That actually brings up something I wanted to chat about with you, which is sayings. I feel like there's this, I think I made it up. I just made it up today when I was thinking about our sayings. I was like, what are these called? They're like couple mantras. And I feel like every couple has little sayings that come up in their experience and then they kind of carry them through. And I feel like you have one personally that's you're the keeper of your own flame.
Yeah. It's a good reminder. You're the keeper of your own flame.
Which is a good reminder, like don't outsource your power. You are your sense of power. And I think as a couple, there have been a few that popped up. The very first one, I think it was the first one, was thriving is baseline.
Yes, I love that one. Thriving is baseline.
Like we should be thriving. Like that is our baseline. That's normal. And when we fall below that, it's how can we get back up to that line?
Right. Yeah, as opposed to feelings where it's like hard for a good thing to stay for too long. I feel like a lot of times people have patterns where it's like things are too good right now. Like I'm uncomfortable with how good they are, waiting for the next shoe to fall. And this kind of like flips it. It's like, no, thriving's baseline. Sometimes we fall below that and that's okay. We work our way back up. But like when we're thriving, that's steady. We're steady state thriving.
Yeah.
I also like sometimes I'll be like, hey, Sam, guess what today is? It's the first day of the rest of your life. And I just say that like every day.
You say that often.
It's so exciting because it's true.
It does have this sense of possibility. It's like, today is the first day of the rest of my life. Like, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah. Can't waste it.
Yeah. We're going to do a quick fire round and we're going to start with a couple questions. So the first one is, if we as a couple were a color, what would it be? But don't tell me yet. No! You were supposed to say it on 3, David. That's going to count.
You said it was a fire round.
True. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'd say olive. Did you say purple?
I did.
That's out of left field.
I don't know. We never wear purple. It doesn't make sense, but first thing that came to
Interesting. Well, we're a little heady, and purple is the crown chakra color, so maybe that's where it came from.
It's like royalty, regal, kings wear purple, queens wear purple.
I said olive just because we wear the same colors, and we've joked that, like, if I was a guy, I would dress like you.
Oh yeah, our whole wardrobe is just olive and black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm just realizing now you're wearing the same jacket that you wore on our first date.
I am, our first date jacket. I thought this was a real dress up quarter zip thing. Sam thought I was stoned. So I was doing a Colorado chic, because I was in Colorado for 10 years. I was in Boulder. So when I wear like a nice North Face quarter zip, that's like the Coloradan suit. That's like a Boulder suit. And then Sam's coming from New York. So she's in this like super nice like coat and like multiple layers and all that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had a fit on, David.
Right. I had a fit on too. It was a Boulder fit. Yeah.
Different styles. Okay, wait, we need to continue the quick fire round. The second one is, if we had a scent as a couple, what would the scent be? 1, 2, 3, go.
Counting down.
1, 2, 3, go. Palo
lavender.
Santo.
I like Palo Santo.
I like lavender too. We have like a lavender roll on that sometimes we'll just slap on.
Yeah, although we do burn a lot of Palo Santo and sage.
We do. I mean, when I picked you up yesterday, my entire car smelled like Palo Santo.
Yeah, it was great.
It was really, really lovely. Okay, and if you and I were like an afternoon activity, what would it be? 1, 2, 3, go. Reading.
Surfing.
That's a you thing.
It was on my mind though. I thought running in the sun, and then when I thought running in the sun, I thought surfing.
Oh, like more the essence.
Yeah, like the essence. Like it's a sunny day. We're kind of like playing in the water, Metaphorically.
I like that.
Metaphoric surfing.
I was thinking more literally. We'd literally be reading, probably.
Yeah, probably. Much more likely than surfing.
Okay. So I want to segment into work, because a lot of our listeners have their own business or they have a side hustle. A lot of them are in corporate and they are focused on reaching their work and professional goals. As a couple, how do we support each other's goals and professional development?
Yeah, I think that we both are very supportive of each other's dreams and goals. I think, like you've never put any like relationship pressure on me not to do something because of our relationship, right? So I think that comes to play when it's like maybe having to like work late or work on a weekend, or like, hey, are you okay if I quit my job and lose my steady W-2 paycheck and start consulting? And like, I have this much savings and like, it might take me some time, but like, are you okay with that? And you're always like, so like, absolutely. I trust you. You got to do what you got to do. And I feel like likewise with you, when you were like, hey, I'm really tired of marketing. Like, I really want to start my own business. I know I'm making like a lot of money and it's going to be a shift. And I was just like, yeah, girl, like, go for it. We got to live, You're the keeper of your own flames.
There it is. I knew it was going to come out.
But yeah, I think that's one of the big things, is just that like perpetual support. And like, even sometimes I'll like feel guilty occasionally, even though you've never made me feel guilty, but like, I'm like, oh man, I might have to like work late. I know like Sam wants to have dinner, but then like, if I am just like, hey Sam, I might have to like work late tonight. You're just like, okay. I'm like, I made that problem up in my mind. That was totally fine.
Yeah, I will never forget when I realized I needed to leave the agency that I was at when I was a senior marketing director. I was so burnt out. And I remember, I think I asked you, I was like, I really want to quit and do my own thing. Would you be okay with that? And like your overwhelming support, and how you were like, honestly, I've been watching you like dissolve as a human, and was going to say something if you didn't do anything.
You're not happy. So any change is good change.
So that was really awesome. And I think the first year of being an entrepreneur too, there's a lot of unknowns. Like all of a sudden you have this freedom. So there are a lot of different ideas you have. And you're like, oh, I could do this or this. And I quickly had like 4 businesses within like 6 months. And over time, it was actually you who helped me see that coaching was the one that lit me up the most, and the one that was consistent without me even really trying. It was like coaching clients just showed up. Yeah. And you helped me see that coaching was really like where I wanted to focus. And that's what's led me to today.
Yeah, I feel like we're both really good at like listening to each other and again, kind of finding those patterns where it's like, you have 4 businesses, you're spread so thin. And like whenever you talk about coaching, you like light up and you're like, oh, I got so much energy today when I got to work with this coaching client. And then you have like these other jobs and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Like I can't do this. I'm just like, all right, well, this makes you more money and you like it more. Like, what if we focused? Like, what if we focused? You went out and you explored, and now maybe we've found a focal point. Yeah, another thing I think we do is like, especially in like early entrepreneurship, you're trying to like find your footing and get that like grip. And I feel like we're really good at like supporting each other's like celebrating small wins. Where it might be like, like I was so nervous to post my first LinkedIn post. And I remember like posting it and like, oh my God, I like shut my computer and like ran upstairs like, oh, Sam, I just posted my first LinkedIn post. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you're like, oh, like celebrating, jumping up and down. And or like when you get like when you get like a client booked or something, like we can celebrate those and kind of like help, yeah, celebrate the wins and keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we are supportive of each other. And we are also mirrors. So we can say, hey, I've been noticing this makes you really tired. Or like, are you sure you want to take on another project or client, Samantha, when your plate is more than full? And I feel like those reflections from you have been really helpful and valuable. And
yeah, that was it. That was one. That was where it was like, you have a lot of pies in the oven, Sam. Remember the last time you had 5 pies in the oven? And you were, when 6 months down the road, when the pies were cooked, you were pretty upset. You had so many
pretty
pies.
Overwhelmed.
You're pretty overwhelmed. Maybe we only put a couple pies in this time,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's been amazing. And I think like financially too, it's scary going out on your own and quitting your job. And I think for both of us, like you had a job when I quit, which was great. So we had some stable thing while there was more risk and experimentation on my side. And then when you decided to quit, I had found stability as an entrepreneur. And I don't know, there's just been this nice like give and take with both of us entering the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was great for me. Like, I don't know if I would have quit to start my own consulting if I hadn't seen you go through that and see you take that jump and like that risk and then like work through it all and kind of find your footing. And then again, yeah, me being able to like provide a little bit more of that like financial stability for that year. And then you had that. And then I was like, okay, I think I also want to quit. You seem you kind of got it now. So what if I quit my W-2 also, And yeah, I feel like, yeah, we always have kind of a willing to support each other, Or now when we're like thinking about having kids, it's like, okay, like, should I go back? Maybe I'll go back into corporate a little bit, like try and get that stability rather than like never knowing what's more than 6 months ahead or something. Yeah. I feel like we're just very supportive of each other.
Yeah. And that brings us to the now, which is you are looking to transition back into corporate. So could you share with our listeners like one thing that's led to that decision that you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I mean, I left my job. I was a senior data science manager, but still doing like a lot of individual contributor work and kind of like just holding a lot of stuff up, kind of like it just felt like holding the sky up with fixing anything for any department. And I quit because I really wanted to expand into kind of this new AI, generative AI area, explore that, stay up to date technically, and just kind of like explore technical things that I would enjoy a little bit more. And so I went into it with like, hey, I'm going to do some generative AI stuff, maybe some kind of like train your own bot on your own LinkedIn post, or like, I can make a Sam bot or make a David bot and sell those. And then
you made a Buddha bot.
I made a Buddha bot. I never put it online because I didn't know about the ramifications, the moral, ethical lashback. But yeah, I was like, askabuddha.com or something, And then I explored that and I was like, I don't really want to do this with my life, like I don't want to feel like I'm just selling like trinkets to people. So then, I was exploring working with other clients, and I think one thing that really came through is that like in terms of generating money, especially when you're an early entrepreneur, like 80% of your time is spent on marketing and sales. It's not like I get to be an entrepreneur and then just like fiddle around with AI tools and create fun projects because I'm not getting paid for it, right? Unless if I create a project or like a product. And at one point I got like really into regenerative agriculture kind of through some of this networking reach out. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll create like an iOS app where I can like help plan like AI powered gardening for people who don't know how to garden and grow plants, but they want to like grow their own food. And then I started down that route. And then it was just, again, like, oh my God, I need money. Like the product route isn't going to do anything for like a year or two. And then, I found like a medium term contract. So my dad ran a software consulting business and he ran it for about 20 years. And I was asking him, and when he started out his first 3 or 4 years, he was doing a lot of kind of like contract work for other companies, or even like doing like a subbed out labor form where he might be working not under his company's title, but another company's title. And I had an opportunity come through to work as a data scientist for like a 12-month contract. And I was like, hey, yeah, I'll start this. I'll do that work. And I was working kind of on a retainer basis for my old company as well, and had a couple other smaller projects here and there, like for a publisher or a compliance company. But yeah, I just found out that ultimately I just like wasn't having fun. It felt like I was doing the same kind of work as a W-2, but I didn't have a team that I really loved. I didn't get to like interview and pick the jobs that I loved. I was just kind of taking what was available. And ultimately, like I like building, I like the sense of building something great with a great team that like leads to a progression kind of humanity. And I felt when I was consulting, I was spending way too much time on sales and marketing. And I was just doing little like pot shots here and there that wasn't building anything great with great people. So yeah, I'm excited to find a new job, and it's fun to have the time and the money to be very deliberate about it and find what I want.
Yeah. And you were saying you were happy that you explored this year of entrepreneurship and you learned a lot of different things. You got to one thing I noticed is, you have this background in data science and you've been doing machine learning and AI stuff before AI became a huge buzzword recently in the last couple of years. And you were like, I really want to stay on top of the trends. And I feel like you have, like you've been keeping up with LLMs and how that stuff works. And so I feel like you also got a refresher since we're in kind of this like gold rush moment of AI coming in. And of course it'll change a lot and it'll grow and mature, but it's been really cool to watch you kind of hone your skills, your skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I've always been curious about running my own business. So like I always would have thought about it, and it's great to have that learnings. And now it's not, I don't think I would ever not run my own business, but I think I would actively want co-founders rather than actively wanting to be my own founder. And I would actively want to be working on a product company rather than a consulting company.
Product based.
Yeah, like again, like building some idea out rather than just kind of being consulting. Yeah. And the other thing was just like, I was seeing, again, kind of like being deliberate in life. I was just seeing, the path that I was on at my old company was to be spread very thin, doing a lot of analytics that wasn't deeply AI or machine learning based. And like you said, I was like, I could just float along this path because I'm here and end up kind of more towards this data management role. But no, like I like the technical stuff. And if I stay here, I'm not going to have it. So I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah. And I think what I saw in that moment for you, even though I was kind of shocked because you were like, I'm quitting. I was like, whoa, where did this come from? But I think what underpins that is that you're not one to settle professionally. Like you have ambition, you have goals, you have drive. You are someone who wants to continue to evolve and grow as a human and in your professional life. And I think for me that I love seeing that. Like I love your ambition. And I feel like it's one of our similarities is that we're both very ambitious. So for me, I was like, hell yeah, like experiment, be an entrepreneur. And I think one thing I've loved that I'm going to miss with you going back into corporate is just like how much fun time we have together. Because as entrepreneurs, like we have very flexible schedules and we can, go to coffee shops and work together or like have a long lunch or decide like, okay, it's Wednesday afternoon. We don't have any calls. Like, let's go to the beach and then work later or, work on a Sunday. And work to me, it doesn't feel like work at all. So I don't know. It's been really fun to have you around as a fellow entrepreneur in the house.
Oh, thanks, Sam.
Yeah.
No, it's been a blast. I mean, it's been a total blast. And, you hope you find jobs where you have that freedom and can take the odd day off at 2 or 3 and go have a fun day. But yeah, we've spent a lot of time together and it's been a total blast.
Which brings me to my next question, kind of segueing out of the professional realm, but like our friends say this, but like we're very similar. We have a lot of similarities. When people meet us, like your friends told me at our wedding that when they met me, they were like, "Oh, you're like the same wavelength." Like it's very apparent. But we also have a lot of differences, and I don't think a lot of people see those right away until they get to know us. So what would you say are some of our differences?
I think one that's kind of interesting because I feel like sometimes we switch it too, but I feel like one, I like to do a lot of things on vibes, like when I'm cooking, I'll just kind of like cook on vibes. It's like, I don't really want to look it up to see like who's telling me to set it to what temperature or what time or, what amount of things. I'm just kind of like, I'm just going to vibe it out.
You're just like, let's throw it on 350, see what happens.
Yeah.
Burn a pizza,
it's
whatever.
Hot, we'll figure it out. Same with like traveling. I'm just kind of like, you're like, oh, where should we go? Like, oh, we have a wedding in Ireland this year. Like, where should we go? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. We'll like figure it out. Like we just fly into Dublin or something and like go from there. And you're
right.
like, what? We're not going to go from there. Like it's peak travel season day, and I've like done this a ton where I just travel and then I'm like, oh, I didn't have any plans. Apparently it's super busy here. So definitely like the planning piece. Yeah.
Yeah, you will show up without a hotel reservation and just literally vibes only on travel. And I like to know where I'm staying at night because I have done that like in my college era, and I ended up in some sketchy situations where I had to stay in like a shitty hostel. And I've realized over the years that I like nice things, and I love luxury hotels and luxury travel. I know we can't like always afford that right now, not in the future, but I at least like to have like hotels booked and like a rough itinerary. I like to have flights in and out, where I think you would be okay booking a one way and then just walking.
You do not like roughing it. That's one thing I've found out. My life of roughing it is in the past, or with the boys. When we do a boys trip, we can rough it.
Yeah, you just take a sailboat to go surf.
Yeah,
where you can't go on land.
That was epic. I know my friend was just like, dude, I think I might buy a sailboat and then I might live on it. And I was like, you should, man. He's like, what would my life be if I had all this money to buy a sailboat and I didn't spend it on a sailboat? I was like, I don't know. Seems like a life unlived, So now he has a sailboat and you can just sail your boat. It's kind of wild. It was like one of those like almost like life rule breaking moments where you can just buy a boat and then just sail a boat like wherever you want. It's like pretty lawless. It's wild. Like there's no like, it's not like you're walking through people's properties in the ocean, It's just like, you just like buy a boat. It's like, hey, here's $10,000. Okay, here's a, 36-foot sailboat. And it's like, where do you take it? And you're like, wherever you want to take it. You could take it anywhere,
Yeah.
So we did. We went surfing.
Yeah, you anchor to a place where you can't go to that surf break on land. So you just literally jumped off the boat on your surfboard and then went.
Yeah, they're like, if you step foot on land, they'll arrest you. And I was like, no. And then I like got caught inside where like all these waves were like pounding me. And normally I would just like be like, all right, I guess I'll go to the beach. But I was like, oh my God, I can't let the ocean beat me because I'm going to get arrested if I go on shore. And I have to get back to the boat because it's getting dark. And there was just like wave after wave after wave just like smashing me. So it was like a half-hour little ride on the struggle bus, but built character.
You made it. You survived.
Yeah, I'm a stronger man for it.
But talking about these differences, I think also we go to the same what's called a spinal network chiropractor. So it's kind of like energy healing with the spine. Like they're not cracking your bones. They're reading how your spine and nervous system operate. And we went for different reasons. Like for me, I was very focused on, I wanted to improve my posture because I felt like my posture was getting weaker over time working from a computer mainly. And I also wanted to go for some other things, like for my skin, like I had some skin issues. And well, honestly, I saw them do a treatment because I was with a group of healers and we were all doing like a healing share. I was doing some Reiki and I watched them do it on someone and I was like, I want to do that. So then that led me there. And then you were led there. And they give us information on our spines because now we've been doing this with them for a couple years. And so it's really interesting because they work on both of us. They've told me like my nervous system, it wants to plan. Like that's its natural space where it likes to be, but it's actually energy rich and it's like better all around for me when I practice just being and not planning. And that is very true for me. Like when I show up to something without a plan, that's when I do my best. But if I practice and rehearse a lot, I get in my head and then I ruminate and it doesn't go as well. And you are the exact opposite energetically. So
yeah, I'm like very, my natural, like kind of like I was just saying, like, oh, I just like to vibe it out, you know? Like my natural default is just like, oh, we'll just wing it. Let's just kind of like chill, see what happens, you know, just be. But then like that doesn't always actually work out for me. It's like what I'm always drawn towards. But a lot of times I'll be there and like things just like, I'm just like uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's like, all right, well, don't like force it, you know, just like relax maybe. And then what they're saying is that I'm actually like much more resourced when I do have structure and when I do like plan or like have an itinerary. And I've actually found that a lot to be true in work, where like the days that I show up and sit down at my desk and I'm just like, I don't know, what are we going to do today? I guess we'll like kind of figure it out. Let's go, maybe I'll do this thing. Okay. And like, as much as I resist instead having like a sprint board or like a Jira board or something that says like, hey, here are your 7 tasks you need to do this week. Today, I'm going to pick these 3 and I'm going to do them. And as soon as I do them, I'm done. And then once I finish that, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do strength training. And then I'm going to go like read after that. And this is what I'm going to have for dinner. And like those days that I follow that structure, as much as I like resist doing that structure, I finish the day like with so much more energy, feeling so much more accomplished. But yeah, it's a really interesting, they call it like the triad of change or something, where it's like these 3 nodes and it's kind of like, what are you drawn towards? What are you most resourced as actually? And then there's like kind of this like, what's your worst / theoretical best enlightenment area? I don't know. It's mostly the 2, but yeah, it is interesting that we're complete opposites. And kind of like we were just saying, it's like you're always drawn to plan, but planning kind of tires you out.
Oh, it's exhausting.
And then I'm always drawn to just wing it, but I actually feel a lot better when I plan. I just don't like planning, you know. But yeah, so I've been working a little bit more on structure, and sometimes that means like even just like having to try and like put effort in to situations, which is sometimes counter because I'm like, oh yeah, let's just flow with it, you know. And it's like, no, sometimes you actually do have to like try and like put some effort in, you know.
Yeah. Actually, our honeymoon was one of the most like blissful trips because I did the initial planning of like, okay, these are going to be the cities, these are going to be where we're staying in the hotels, but otherwise I totally let go. And you really planned each day and you're like, okay, let's do this thing today. And I just got to totally flow and let go. And it was amazing.
Yeah, I remember that. You loved that. And because I had been to Bali before just for like a few days, but I kind of like knew what it was and I knew what I had done that I liked and what I didn't get a chance to do that I really wanted to do. And you had already gotten us like the sweetest hotels. We just went from like villa to villa to villa to villa. It was awesome.
Obviously.
So then, yeah, each day it was fun. I was just like, all right, Sam, like today we're going to go to like Uluwatu and we're going to go like check out this surf spot right here. And then we're going to walk around, do some stuff, come back. I always wanted to go clubbing. That was the only thing. I kept wanting to like go. I was like, Sam, we got to go club, you know? But then like whenever it was the weekend, we were like so tired. And we were like, I don't know, maybe like we'll club tomorrow, you know, let's just go to bed. And then
we went to
like,
one club.
Yeah, on like a Tuesday night.
It was a Tuesday.
There were like 20 people there. It was like the best club in Asia, and it was like so lame. It was like beautiful architecture, but clearly just like, and it was a day beach that day, or like a day club.
Yeah.
And I was like too tired during the day to go. So then we went at night, and there were like, 5 people on the dance floor. We started tangoing on the dance floor to try and start something, but no one.
We did.
No one joined in. A few people joined, but
a few people joined. I do think that I wanted to bring up dancing on this episode because that is one similarity between us. Like we love dancing. We find dancing to be very cathartic. And I think something that most people wouldn't know is that we have taken dance classes together, like many different types of dance, like jitterbug, tango, bachata, waltz.
Oh yeah. A little bit of everything. We've never stuck with it.
No. We haven't like done competitions.
Yeah,
like that's
we dance in the kitchen every day, but it was fun. Well, and you have like a dance background, and I just like dance at shows.
You vibe.
So I vibe dance. You professionally
That's the
dance.
motto.
So like the jitterbug classes are funny because I like love them until we have to like string like 6 or 7 moves together, then I get like super lost and I just like stare bug eyes at you like, oh my God, I don't know. I don't know what the count is anymore, where we're supposed to be. But yeah, they're always really fun.
You lock up on the door when you get lost.
I do. When there's something I'm supposed to do that I don't know what to do, I don't like that situation, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and actually,
but we did ecstatic dance in Bali, and that was a total blast because that's literally all you're supposed to do is vibe. It's just like keep moving for 2 hours, eyes closed, don't talk to anyone. I'm like, that is my idea of heaven. If the pearly gates open for me and it's just ecstatic dance in Bali, I'm there.
My eyes were open and it was cool to see because some people would kind of barely move and just like move side to side or take breaks. And some people were just like grooving like on the ground doing like modern, postmodern dance type vibes. But it was awesome. It was, you do kind of get into like a little bit of a trance, even though you're sober. Like it was on a Sunday at 11 in this huge treehouse. And we left just feeling like, whoa, we feel like we really like moved some stuff out of our bodies.
Yeah, it was fun. It was funny at Osho's in that cult pyramid. We're in like this huge black obelisk pyramid. We're like all in robes and they're just like, just start dancing, you know? And like, again, George and I didn't go to the orientation because we showed up late. So we don't have no idea what's going on. And so it was kind of like that ecstatic dance where like a lot of people are like just kind of moving a little bit. A lot of people are like rolling on the ground doing that, like trying to express every anger and emotion they've ever had through their body. And I'm just like, all right, you told me to dance. Let's just start grooving. And I just started like dancing like I was at a fish show, but I was just like in robes in this pyramid at this cult. It was really fun. It wasn't like, you know, I wasn't doing like what the people were saying is like, do this like ecstatic dance expression where you're like pulling these things out of your body. I was just like, no, I like dancing like I do at fish. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Here in a pyramid too.
If someone were to see an ecstatic dance event, they would see most people just kind of like grooving and doing whatever that looks like for them. But this brings me to another difference of ours, which is we have very different taste in music. You are a jam band guy, like Fish. You're a Deadhead, and I am definitely not.
Right. Well, I have 3 things going for me. I have the jam bands, I have the folk bluegrass, and then I have the EDM.
Yes. And I am a little all over, I would say. I don't like jam bands. I like some electronic music, but not like EDM specifically. I think we overlap where like I like Fred again, but you listen to a lot of heavier stuff that I'm not super into.
Right. You're an indie girl.
I love the indie music of like 2000s.
Yeah, we differ. We differ strongly.
Like if music was played on the Gossip Girl soundtrack, you can guarantee that that's in my liked songs.
Right. I don't think our liked songs overlap by like more than maybe like 2 Fred again songs.
Yeah. It's been a point of contention, but
I'm very consistent. Every year my Spotify Wrapped is folk, house,
it's
Grateful Dead.
Electronic music, which is at a high tempo, or it is like a guy singing about how he hates his life, like with a guitar.
Yeah, beautiful guitar though.
I mean, it's beautiful, but like
I can't hear lyrics, so for me it's just the sound of the music, you know?
Okay, so moving on, some real talk moments. Do we ever argue or fight?
Yeah, totally. I feel like we don't fight about a lot, but I feel like we have some arguments that come up just in the areas where we differ. Like I know one area a lot was like, I really like to go to like music festivals. And you used to go to music festivals a lot, but as you've gotten like kind of more like the more energy healing you've done, you got a lot more sensitive and like those kind of crowds are very challenging for you now. And I'm still like, well, I love music festivals, so like I'm gonna go to music festivals, and like my friends don't really go to music festivals, so I ended up just wanting to go alone. And I know we've had a lot of arguments about that, about like, why are you going to music festivals alone? Like, do you really need to do that? And I'm like, look, I know music festivals have a certain vibe. I don't really do that. I just shut my eyes and dance, you know?
You do.
Yeah.
And I've gone with you to music festivals and I've seen it. Like you aren't thick in the crowd. Like you are there to literally move to the music with your eyes closed. And if you go in a group of people, your eyes will still be closed.
Right. And I'll probably leave them. I usually abandon them within like an hour. I'm like, hey, I got to go. And then I just find a spot alone. Yeah. But I feel like we have that sometimes. I feel like sometimes, you know, sometimes it comes back to the planning. Like we don't have super often now, but when we were like planning our wedding, that was like a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we definitely had some arguments there around like you taking on a huge portion of that, right? And I'm kind of just doing my thing where I just sit back and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. If you give me a task, like I'll probably do it, But I wasn't like taking initiative. I'll probably do it. Yeah, it might take a little bit, but yeah, I know that was definitely one because it was like this. It felt so important to you to like plan out this incredible wedding, And for me,
well, there are like 1,000 pieces.
Right, wedding. And for me, it's just like wedding. It'll just it'll be a wedding. We'll invite people over and things will happen. I don't realize like just how much is involved in that. So I feel like we had some arguments there. I feel like we have a couple others, but like not too often. And I think
we communicate a lot. Like, I feel like we could probably have more arguments if we weren't as communicative as we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like we're both very good at like understanding each other's perspective. And I think you've helped me speak my truth more, which always helps like resolve our issues. Like I'm pretty quiet, especially in like antagonizing situations. I'm much more of a, repressive individual. And I think you can be a little more on the like reactive side, like if those were two sides where you're like sharing how you feel, and then I go into like my reactive thing and I just like get quiet. I'm like, okay, I don't,
You go into hermit and I go into like fire.
You're like, David, can you please tell me how you feel? And it's like terrifying for me to do that because I think like, I don't know, you'll like abandon me or something. And then as I've gotten better about just saying how I feel like that almost always like resolves a huge amount of tension. Yeah, I think we, we don't argue a ton because I think we're very similar in a lot of ways. And then when we do argue, I think we've just gotten better at like, listening to each other and like saying our piece. Yeah. And there definitely is some sort of magic when you just like say how you feel and the other person says how they feel and like both people hear each other. Like it doesn't even require agreement or something almost. It's just like the fact that those things have just been said. Like there's so much tension that's released. Yeah, and I think that's helped us a lot. And it's certainly something I'm continuing to work on.
Yeah, I think it's a forever thing. I think one unlock that we've noticed, someone for our wedding got us this book called 8 Dates, and every date is a theme. So one date is about communication, one's about like future family, one's about work. It's pretty cool. Like I recommend it to all couples, but I think a pattern that we spotted in that book that has also worked for us, which we discovered it like kind of organically before the book, but then I noticed the pattern in the book, which is to describe like your feeling about something, but how has your past influenced the way that you perceive the thing that you're arguing about. And when you can share your perspective based on why you have that from your past, like past experiences that contribute to it, it creates a lot of connection and understanding. And suddenly you understand more about how the other person is bringing their perspective to the table. And that has been massive for understanding each other.
Yeah, that's helped a lot because then it goes from just like this blind feeling about like, why am I being oppressed that I can't do this, to be like, she's had this experience in her past. So she hears this and like, this is how she feels from it. And like, that's what we can work on, It's not just like this like blind rage and like, oh, she just wants to oppress me by not wanting me to go to a music festival or something. It's like, oh, she's worried about these things, And same on my end, like when I get triggered about certain things, you can be like, oh, okay, it's just because of these things, and this is how we can work on it. Yeah. But yeah, that 8 Dates book was good. That was for my cousin, the eldest of the cousins. And she was just like, I'm going to ignore your whole registry because I know what you need is this marriage book. And you need to go
you do not need placemats. You need this book.
And she was right. We've gifted it at least to one person, if not two, I think.
Yeah, I highly recommend it for all couples, whether you're dating or married. I just thought it was really fun. It's also really easy. Like the chapters are short. You might make a list of things before you meet, and then you get to have fun planning the dates. And the dates, vary. They're kind of themed with each one. Yeah. With that,
and I think you have a good perspective too, which is just like, hey, like this is our marriage. This is our relationship. This is like one of the biggest things in our lives. Like, are you willing to put in an hour every other week for 8 weeks to do like such great work and like help this thing. You know, it's really like, this is one of the biggest things we have in our lives. Let's like actively invest in it. Let's put a little bit of effort. Let's not live this fantasy that like relationships just work out magically and you never need to do anything. And if you found the right person, then like you're just smooth sailing, tripping Disneyland every day, you know? It's like, no, sometimes you need to, you know, we're two humans and we need to like put some effort in and talk.
Yeah, it was really lovely doing that in our like newlywed era. I think we started that soon after we got back from our honeymoon. But I think one thing that we're talking about now that I wanted to bring up too is something that our parents have taught us about love. And my parents, especially my dad, was one thing that they had always said to me was like, you can't change people. So if you're dating someone, take them as they are. Don't think that they're going to change into some type of person or that you can change them to adapt them into whatever your fantasy might be. And then I think what I've learned on my own through like therapy and personal development is that people will naturally evolve as humans. Like we are going to change a little bit to some degree. Maybe it might be just our interests or preferences or like how we move through the world or how comfortable we are in certain situations. But holding those two together, I think, is why I thought this was really important for us to do the 8 dates and to continue to have like relationship check-ins, is because I don't want to change you. I love you as you are, but I want to make sure that as we both evolve as people, that we're doing so together. Like we're still walking step by step as a couple.
Well, thank you. I love you too, Sam.
So what is one thing that your parents taught you?
I think they taught me that like they always had each other's back and they just like always supported each other. Even when it was like hard for the other person, if one person was going through a tough time or something, or again, if one person wanted to start doing this thing or that thing, but they just really felt like partners and they like always seemed like they helped each other out. And yeah, I just love that they were always like willing to pick up something for the other person.
Yeah. You're on the same team.
Same team.
That's a more recent saying of ours, a couple mantra.
It was from a Instagram reel meme that was like these two young parents with like 3 tiny toddlers in an airport, and they just like take a break. They're like, all right, same team. We're about to go through a lot here. Same team.
I love it. Okay, now let's get into the Valentine's special segment, which is how are we spending this year's Valentine's Day? Yes.
This year we're doing something special. So Sam doesn't really like kind of like going out for dinners on Valentine's Day. So in the past we've always like, had a nice home cooked meal or something. And this year
I have to back that up for a second. Yeah. I feel like restaurants do like a whole thing and I feel like it's a little cheesy. But I also like restaurants are packed. It's just like kind of insanity. And I feel like relationships, I like enjoy the intimacy that relationships hold. And so I feel more intimate with you at home having a really lovely dinner that's made with intention versus like a restaurant.
Well, I think that was validated a little bit. We went to a nice dinner New Year's Eve and we just ended up like at this country club and there was like 6 people in the restaurant and one couple was just going through a crazy divorce or something. And so they were just like fighting the whole time. Sam and I are just like right behind them, like trying to keep a straight face. Just like, we're just talking about like, oh, what were your 3 favorite parts of the year? And we're like, there were too many to count. Oh my God. She's just like, you're a narcissist. Like, how could you say these things? So yeah, sometimes the big, you know, yeah, we paid all this money for like a 3-course meal. And yeah, so sometimes the big days you can just have on your own. Yeah. But this year Sam wanted to make each other something. And then I was like, what if we made each other a song? Because Sam just got a piano because she wants to relearn piano. And I've like kind of dabbled in guitar. And then I've started like playing with Ableton recently to like make the electronic music. So yeah, we're going to...
Ableton is like a DJ software, basically.
Yeah, like music production software. But so yeah, we're going to make each other a little song for Valentine's Day. 30 seconds. That's okay. It can be 30 seconds long.
40.
All right, 45 seconds. That's fair.
Okay.
A chorus. So I can say a chorus twice.
Actually, that's quite a lot on piano. So I really need to get 30 to it.
A 30-second song. You know, once you try and write a 30-second song, that takes a little bit.
We were also inspired by a Friends episode because we also we got a ton of stuff from our registry. We just moved. Like, things are things, but there was an episode where Monica and Chandler decide to give each other gifts, but they both panic and basically don't make each other gifts. Monica gifts like a sock rabbit thing from Phoebe, and Chandler finds a tape that Janice actually gave him of songs, like a mixtape. It's a good episode. We enjoyed
They
it.
set the bar low. We're gonna surpass Monica and Chandler.
Right.
We're not a sitcom.
We're not a sitcom, no. Okay, so we're gonna put you in the hot seat, David. So for our lovely single ladies who are listening, what advice do you have for them as they continue in their dating journeys?
Well, I gotta say, let your spark shine.
Ooh.
Like really, really let loose a little bit. Let like your personality show. Let like, that spark show. I think for me, at least, it was always really refreshing to find those people where they just like kind of light up because like they have their own special thing going, like you never felt too reserved. Like, of course you're early dating. You're not like an open book, you're not like oversharing and going crazy, but like you don't need to be like super buttoned up and like do everything like perfect and quiet or something. But yeah, like, say some wild things, be a little out there, move a little bit, like take some risks. Yeah. And then the other thing I would say that Samantha did really well is like try and practice that secure attachment. So like early on in relationships, like whether you're kind of avoidant or anxious or something, it can be easy. Like if they don't text you back within 2 hours, then you make up this story about how they like don't like you and they're with someone else. Or, if it could be like the other way, where they're like texting you too much or too little or anything. And I think I used to be like that. And then I feel like Sam was like so secure that it felt like there was no like neediness or like need coming from her. And it felt like it gave me a lot of space to like explore that early part of the relationship and like get a little more comfortable. So yeah, I would just say like, show yourself and try and like practice that secure attachment,
Yeah. And for listeners, that wasn't always my case. I've had a past where I have been anxious and avoidant, like an anxious avoidant mix. But I think before meeting David, I did a ton of work to come back to myself. And so when we were dating, I did have more of that secure attachment. And so some days, we would have like a great conversation. And sometimes days would go by and I wouldn't hear from you. And I talk a little bit about it. I think it's the 4th episode on the podcast. I talk about masculine and feminine energy. But I was really practicing being in my feminine and just letting you lead and being okay with whatever pace that was, while also expressing like what I wanted from our relationship and dating. And just finding this nice balance, I think.
Yeah, right. It was great. Yeah, for me, it was like, because we met and we each went on like kind of longer trips in between our first few dates. So it'd be like we go on a date and then we like don't see each other for 2 weeks because like you're in San Diego or I'm out of town. And like for me, I was like, all right, I just met her. Like I'm not going to text her every day. That's going to like kill the magic. It's just going to be way too much, So like, cool. Like we went on a date, text you the next day. Like, all right, I'm going out of town for a couple of weeks. I'll text you when I get back. And like, for me, it was great because I was like, oh my God, this girl's so chill, this is so easy. And then later I found out that you were like, you like thought that I was never going to text you again, But from my perspective, I didn't know that. So I was like, wow, Sam's awesome.
Yeah. And I would feel that anxious pull. And then again, like I would bring it to therapy or I'd check myself and be like, you know what? I don't need to be anxious about this. It's just in my head. And that's when I would like come back to myself, my life, hang out with my friends, focus on my life without a partner. And I just feel like we met at such one of those points where we both were kind of thriving as individuals. Like we weren't really looking for a partner and then bam. There we were.
That's the secret. Whenever you just invest in yourself and you're like, I'm just going to be the best self I can, then they all come coming,
Yeah. Like I had accepted I might just be a single woman forever with like dogs and like live in a mountain cabin somewhere. And then there you were.
No way, Sam. No way.
Okay. What is one thing you wish someone had told you about love before finding it?
I think that it can be like calm. And one of my friends, Phoebe, said this in one of her vows too. Like she always thought love had to be like this like burning wildfire when it can just be like this kind of like calm river. And I think that is like, that's helped me a lot to be able to just like tune into like the deepest parts of me and just like feel that love rather than have this almost like mistake, like obsessive craving for love, And like, if I don't have that like obsessive craving, like out of control, like gross feelings or something, but that there's just that like deeper level of connection that brings that like calm, lasting peace and connection.
Yeah, that's similar to mine. I feel like dating, I would have lots of relationships where there might be love there, but there was a lot of like push and pull and kind of friction. And I think with you, how I knew that you were like the one, like my partner, is that things felt so easy. And you and I you talked about it when we chatted about our first date earlier in the episode, but just there was this natural ease and I could be myself around you. I didn't feel like I had to be someone else or look a certain way. And yeah, I could just bring all of me to the table. And I still feel that way.
Yeah. It's cool how much you get to see me, and I'm still scared sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, what if I show Sam this part of me? Like, is she going to think I'm weird now? And it's like, never. She's always so accepting. But yeah, I feel like I think that's a really, really big thing that I think people sometimes like crave, that turbulence and like the emotional highs and emotional lows that come in that kind of a relationship. And I think that, yeah, there's something beyond that and kind of the peace and security.
Yeah. So if you do find yourself in that turbulent or loving that turbulence or self-sabotaging when things get too hunky-dory, I think that's where like the personal development comes in. And you and I are both and have always been pretty intentional about personal development and looking at those patterns. And yeah, I think like when we were getting married, we both were like cheersing to our therapists.
Yeah.
They're like, we would not be
here.
We would not be here without them.
They're the MVPs.
Shout out to all therapists of the world. Okay. Well, with that, David, anything else you want to share with our listeners?
No, not right now. I mean, just thriving is baseline. You're the keeper of your own flame. We're on the same team, But yeah, no, it's been a blast. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Sam. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, David Fackler, my roommate, my dog father, my husband.
Yeah. Wife, fiance, girlfriend.
We do say girlfriend, boyfriend a lot to keep the spark alive. Husband and wife can get a little boring.
Forever girlfriend.
Forever boyfriend. With that, thank you all for listening to this episode of Side Note. We will see you next time. Please leave a rating or review if you're new here. Give the show a follow, and we'll be back next week.
Love it.